Welcome to Baptist for Liberty, and today is Friday, June 20th, so this week has gone by real quick. Last night I had a great chance to talk to Adriana Peralta of Pan Am Post, and I know I didn't pronounce her name with the proper Spanish accent, and I'm sorry about that. We talked for nearly an hour, and so I was thinking, okay, I'll just cut it down and maybe make 2 podcasts out of it. But when I went to listen to it and edit it, the recording program I used had several glitches of it. So as it is, there's only 27 minutes worth that I can use for the podcast. But they're good 27 minutes. But there's a few places where the audio we're talking over top of one another, and I can't fix that. There were places where the audio recorded us out of sequence, and I could fix the order, but I can't fix it when it actually saved us talking at the same time. When we didn't actually talk at the same time, we gave one another plenty of space to talk. So, I apologize for the technical difficulties on that, but it's still worth listening to, I believe. So, here we go. Did you have, was there any statements or something in that you think needs to be corrected from your understanding of the situation?
I don't quite believe that theory of Ramirez. I don't know remember her name. That I do know that moving so many kids into the United States must be a logistic problem for everyone, but that both governments or the governments are sending a message or wanting to do something like that, it's quite extraordinary to say the least. And I don't know, it's just like, okay, you have all those kids there, so what are you going to do? Are you going to buy a lot of political influence by, I don't know, let them be there?
By allowing them to ship off? I mean, okay.
Yes, how do you contact all those families, that must be a lot of them, fool them into sending their kids, and that the news doesn't spread around?
Right, okay. So there's no, like, crisis or anything like that to drive the children out of their countries?
Oh, there could be a lot of causes, a lot.
Okay. So yeah, because that was like my primary concern was why are the children leaving? Because from the American perspective, the articles just read, that the politicians here wants amnesty, and that's why we're allowing them to come in, and why our government might even be involved in shipping them here. But that doesn't explain why the children would be willingly to come here, or their parents to allow them to come here.
Oh, that I could talk a lot about. It's a lot of violence in Central America. Honduras is more violent than El Salvador in the last few years, but many of them doesn't want to left behind their kids, knowing that, okay, they send money to El Salvador in my case, but they know that their children are not safe here. So why, in a perspective, why should I do all that work, or those long hours, maybe probably illegal in a legal way? Just another question: do you say illegal in United States for someone that doesn't have the papers?
Yeah, illegal.
Okay, why bother to be an illegal in the United States, but send the kids a lot of money, but in 10 years the kid will be in the hands of, I don't know how do you say, maras, the gangs. It could be viewed by many angles.
Right.
Another thing that caught my attention was that the children are not like smuggling. They are just walking through in plain
Right.
light. I don't know. That's a little bit odd. In every sense, it's a little bit odd.
Right. It is odd because usually people, they wait till night or something like that, but the kids are just coming through in plain sight like they want to be caught. in all
Okay.
what I read, it just kept saying minors, and it had this one picture, and the kids looked about, I would say about 6 to 9 years old in that one picture, but I don't know what the actual age range.
I
Even
will
less?
say
Okay.
even less. Like the kid in the left is like 6 years,
Eight?
the
Okay.
other one is 8 tops. The only thing that like caught my attention that it's very quick. The rising in the kids traveling to the United States has a rise very quick, and the governments
Right.
are dealing with that problem
It's
even
like
quicker.
a lightning strike, you know? It's like, wait a minute. That's why it's like something's at play here.
Yeah. Yes. Yes,
Right.
and government
And
doesn't
you
tend to
said
be
that drug
so quick.
cartels isn't so much a problem in Central America right now. It's mostly just in Mexico.
No, we have a very big drug problem here. Not like the Mexican problem. In Mexico, the drugs cartel are usually fighting between each other
Okay, right.
to to control the zones. Right now here we have
Mm-hmm.
a economic problem, immigration problem that started in the 90s and sorry the 80s, and the consequences of that. That those consequences are also economic, are that families are torn apart, and those family that first kids that their parents went to the United States during the 80s are the ones that had made up the all the gangs. So these gangs, um, they make a lot of violence. This violence is one of the causes that we don't prosper economically. That's one of the causes that many parents seek to go to the United States illegally, and also the gangs are might be one of the causes that their parents want their kids to be out of there.
Right.
It's like a little chain.
Right. So when you said in the 80s
One
you guys
thing
had
leads to
immigration
another one.
problems, mostly it was adults leaving their children behind.
Yes, because we had a civil war
Okay.
between 1980 and
Um,
1992.
did you guys, because I know there's been a lot of wars in Central America, revolutions throughout the 80s and 70s and such. So did you ever have problems with immigrants coming into El Salvador from other countries?
The only to give you a very specific historic moment, the only moment might be during the Second World War. Many Europeans took the first ship and into whatever country they might be going, and I don't know,
Okay.
the grandchildren of those adults were my schoolmates, but that was, I don't know, a little bit, and if it was as someone that has a last name, sorry, uh, Jewish, German, Italian, they say
Oh,
my grandparents went here or my grandparents came here,
okay.
but it was nah, nah, it doesn't, we
Um,
don't have that.
okay. And so my other question was just, what's El Salvador's relationship with Mexico?
Economically, we have uh, free trade agreement. Sorry, but we have good relationships, but not like our country like to that we. It's not our best friend to be to.
Is there a particular ethnic group that is
Okay.
leaving, or is it pretty even?
No, in El Salvador, we are very
Okay.
homogeneous group of people. But no, we are not separating races. If you
Mhm.
if a stranger sorry foreign person look at us,
Okay.
might say
Um,
you're a
do
little
you
bit
have
whiter, you're
very
not, but
many
there's not a big difference.
well, according to Wikipedia, and I don't know how reliable it is, it says that about 1% of the population is indigenous, so like natives that haven't
Okay,
mixed.
1% or less. It's just really just a small town in one of our departments.
Oh,
The indigenous
okay.
people are living in just one town. Okay. Maybe I could, I don't know,
Um,
explain a little bit more about what might push a parent to send their kids away. What you must understand it's that for I have never
okay.
crossed my mind to move illegally to another country. Just to put you in perspective, I'm a middle class woman that has always been in a private school. I had always been in my university. I took my degree. I know two languages since I was 4 years old. And you may say that in being in Salvador, I was very lucky to be born into a family that never passed. I am not a rich person. I'm not saying that, but I never doubt that I will have my food on my plate, my bed, and nothing will ever um, be shortened in my family. I don't know. I will always have my basic things and more of that. And my parents were very concerned about my education.
Right.
But we are not all the we all the people in Salvador are not like them. 46 of our
Oh, wow.
people live behind under the poverty line. 22 of them, if I'm not mistaken, under the extreme poverty line. So to them, it's very to a parent living like that. It's a very difficult situation to and I don't know decision to say I'm going to leave my country because here I will never get a job so well paid so my kids will have education, will have
Mm.
the basics needs covered. They travel to United States. There are in the last few years they travel a lot to Sweden to send money for I don't know 10, 20 years and never come back. And those kids never go to visit them. And those kids usually are raised by a grandmother, another uncles, aunts that also are maintained by this person that lives in the United States. That was until I don't know the 90s,
Mhm.
98, a little bit like that. Their parents knew that the kids will be going to be safe here. They might not be here, but they are going to have the basics needs covered. They're going to go to or a public school or a very cheap private school and then to a cheap university in El Salvador and have education that they never had and had food on their plates like they never had. That was that mindset. And those people, many of them just go there 30, 20, 30 years and then came back when they feel that their job is done. They have provided to their children, and their children are now professionals, and some of them not all that came reality, but their children are going to be safe. But these few last years, the gangs have grown so much that these parents are now afraid that those kids might
Mhm.
have economically what they didn't have what their necessity covered, but now they had a lot of violence around them, a lot of possibilities that those kids that are in the school are going to be harassed or bullied by kids or by gangs. So what is now is that I send my kids
Mm.
all that money, but now those kids are in more danger in El Salvador than traveling to the United States to be with me. It's a very tough situation. It is also a very real situation. I have never lived nor I'd go to those zones because it might be very dangerous for me. But a newspaper in Salvador talks a lot about that, about those zones controlled by gangs. So it will not be so foolish to think that a parent might have a coyote smuggling their kids into United States just so them to be safe. If
Is
not,
the El Salvador government doing
there
anything
will not be
to
any kids traveling
deal with
to the
these
United States
gangs?
illegally before this rise of kids. Mm, that's the yes and no. Yes, yes, they are doing. I personally don't like what they're doing. It's the more complex problem we have ever faced. I think most complex and more complicated than the Civil War. Actually, that might be a whole new theme for another whole new podcast. But that just for the I don't know the gun problem got very serious around 97, I think 99. The government just tried to repress people. No, 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 repress is a bad word. The bad usage. The government tried to just punish them, force another law, make more severe punishments for those criminals, but they didn't work. They keep that policy until I don't know 2002, when the government is like doing a being a I don't know. I don't actually know what's the government role in all this.
Mm.
That's what I don't like the most. But there's like a truce between the two principal gangs in El Salvador. So
Mm.
the that's why I say that Honduras right now is more dangerous than El Salvador, because there is a certain peace treaty between them.
Mm.
What's the government part in all that? I might just guess, because there are a lot of gossip around that, and the
Okay.
thing that it's like San Salvador has counties around it, around El Salvador. Some of these counties are more dangerous than the other ones. It's not like it's divided. It's like you go through there and you know that is dangerous. You continue your path and you abandon that
Okay.
zone. But it's not like it's so far away from here. It's just like you know that where you are at that moment is dangerous. You I don't know, use your car and go away, and it's not so that dangerous anymore. But it's not like here it is. Well, there are gang signs in those zones to know what.
Is there something that you think
Yeah,
is
here.
most important for Americans to
Okay,
know
okay. About the illegal immigration.
about El Salvador, about the immigrants?
Well, about the immigrants, I might tell Americans that those immigrants are the bravest and toughest people I have ever met. I don't know, that's a familiar story, but one of my grandmother's made travel illegal to United States in the 80s. That woman was did it because they're kids. She didn't mind. She did a lot of work, and she just felt very bravely. I did that for my
Okay.
kids. I don't remember what a polity act did she sign or something like that, but she's not a legal. She's now a legal resident. I don't know. Maybe that's I say that comment because heard a lot of stories that many I don't know people think that those people are going to steal from them, or are going to I don't know that might that those people that choose a path that is not legal must be bad persons, bad people, sorry. But no, it's just the contrary for like I don't know the 90% of them maybe. I don't know. And what I can say about El Salvador, we are more we are a very complex country, a very small but very complex country. But we are more than just gangs. Maybe we just be in the news by all the gangs, all the illegal, the immigrants, all the drug problem, all the cartels that use Central America just like a freeway for drugs. That's our main problem. Not that, not that the population is
Mhm.
are drug addicts. No, we. Oh, of course, there are using people that use a lot of drugs here, like in any country. But mainly our problem is that we are a freeway for drugs. So I will tell the American people that we are a lot of things,
Um,
a lot of great things, but
being
besides
the
all
freeway,
that
let's
thing
see.
that you read
Uh,
or heard in the newspapers. In the 90s, we weren't a freeway for drugs because Colombia was the main producer, and Colombia by itself sent the drugs, not all the drugs, to Mexico. They didn't like pass every that much in Central America because or it was at the time of the Civil War, or Colombia was still a big producer, and all those mega cartels existed before. Like I don't know. Uh, I'm talking to you about the into the 85 to 94 that Pablo Escobar was still alive. So it was a little different the operation. Colombians took the drugs to Mexico, and in Mexico, the drug cartels in Mexico see how they smuggle the drugs in the United States. But right now that the Colombian cartels are less powerful, are less big, and are less publicized, and Central America doesn't have civil wars anymore,
okay.
they use like a freeway. So Colombia passes drugs to the small cartels that exist here. They're just smugglers. They are not
Right.
just like selling them. And then Mexico fight between the controls near the border in the United States. I know that this will be like quoting a TV show is not strictly professional, but did you saw Breaking Bad?
Um, I've heard of it. I never actually watched it.
Oh, okay, but they show there like the how they fight between to control some zones, and that's what's happening in Mexico. A lot of another thing that you might consider with that probably in 10, 15 years is that the kids that were in the 80s, no, I, mistaken, the adults now that were kids in the 80s,
Right.
or they didn't leave El Salvador behind, so their kids are here, and they are gangs members that what supposedly made them deal in the truth is that they don't want their same life to their kids. That that's the um, I a couple years ago, I organized. I think that that's the way to say it. A TEDx event. We
Okay.
had a speaker that studied the gang phenomena. He said that the main reason that the gangs doesn't want to that made the truth is because that adults now, sorry, doesn't want that life to their kids. And another phenomena, all the kids that went to but because you have to consider that in the 80s there was a lot of kid illegal immigration also. Not all the adults there in the time leave their kids behind. A lot of them went to the United States. So those kids that grew in the United States doesn't send money anymore because the family is not here anymore. So the power of all that money uh, that is sent to El Salvador is going to be less and less with each year.
Right.
To be a little bit short in my answer, um, if those kids
Right.
truly stay in America and all those theories that governments might be there, well, we have a lot of children less in Central America,
Right.
and those children won't remember Central America. And the kids left behind in the 80s, have don't have that much family in the United States, so they are not so
Okay.
attached. About this piece of news that you sent me, well, it doesn't seem so. We have seen everything about governments in the history of humanity. That's out of the question. But my only point is that is a lot of people involved. Even they moved their that kids by I don't know, telling lies to their parents, both in the United States and their grandparents in Central America. Okay, but that's a lot of people that isn't talking. That's impossible. Simple impossible. That no one press, no one has ever talked. Who are those grandparents? Who are those parents? Where are they? It's very
Mm.
strange that any news media that I know has interviewed a parent or there's any
Mm.
parent going to those I don't know refugees are the where the kids are. It's very odd that any parent's going to look for those kids. I have I worked once in an NGO that worked with
That.
many of them. If they send their kids away, they were calling their kids how they were. They didn't just I don't know going to expect that their kids go easily and didn't ask for them. Where are they?
Right.
Poor
They
people.
remain some kind of contact.
Yes, and at least at this moment, I haven't
So do
heard
you
that
think the American
any
numbers are inflated?
newspaper had gone to those refugees or had uh, seek a parent to ask to where are those parents? Where is any media coverage of those people? Answer of that.
The last few years, I'd have to look that back up. I didn't write that part down. Um,
How many were the last years?
Let me see. But they gave in 2011 it was only 6,000 unaccompanied
And
minors, and the year isn't over. It's only halfway through.
yes, that 6,000 that they catch. Let's put a little bit more than the ones that managed to go to the United States without being caught. But 10 times more? Yes, it's like 12, 20 times more. I don't know if it is a government issue. Silence that much people? I don't know. One grandparent per kid, one aunt per kid, another 60,000 parents. That's just insane. I don't know. That was a theory that I thought about that might be inflated numbers because you can't hide those people. You might have photos about thousands of kids in a very
Oh,
small uh, zone. There are no photograph of that. I'm going to Google it. I don't know. That just seemed a little bit odd. I will really wait. What are the agreements made this week when Joe Biden go to Guatemala? He's going to. I don't. I'm going to look for you for a picture for a note about that. But Joe Biden is
yeah.
going to Guatemala tomorrow.
And today's proverb reading is Proverbs chapter 20. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. The fear of a king is as the roaring of a lion. Whoso provoketh him to anger sinneth against his own soul. It is an honor for a man to cease from strife, but every fool will be meddling. The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cloud. Therefore shall he beg in harvest and have nothing. Counsel in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it. Most men will proclaim every one his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find? The just man walketh in his integrity, his children are blessed after him. A king that sitteth in the throne of judgment scattereth away all evil with his eyes. Who can say, I have made my heart clean, I am pure from my sin? Diverse weights and diverse measures, both of them are like abomination to the Lord. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure, and whether it be right. The hearing ear and the seeing eye the Lord hath made, even both of them. Love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. It is not, saith the buyer, but when he is gone his way, then he boasteth. There is gold and a multitude of rubies, but the lips of knowledge are a precious jewel. Take his garment that is surety for a stranger, and take a pledge of him for a strange woman. Bread of deceit is sweet to a man, but afterwards his mouth shall be filled with gravel. Every purpose is established by counsel, and with good advice make war. He that goeth about as a talebearer revealeth secrets, therefore meddle not with him that flattereth with his lips. Whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness. An inheritance may be gotten hastily at the beginning, but the end thereof shall not be blessed. Say not thou, I will recompense evil, but wait on the Lord, and he shall save thee. Divers weights are an abomination unto the Lord, and a false balance not good. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? It is a snare to the man who devoureth that which is holy, and after vows to make inquiry. A wise king scattereth the wicked, and bringeth the wheel over them. The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. Mercy and truth preserve the king, and his throne is upheld by mercy. The glory of young men is their strength, and the beauty of old men is the gray head. The blueness of a wound cleanseth away evil, so do stripes the inward parts of the belly.